Ciao, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Experience Italy with Friends. This week's episode is inspired by the fact that since we've moved to Italy, we've been doing a lot of travel all over the country, a true planes, trains, and automobiles life. I'm frequently asked about how to most efficiently and economically get around the country, and we thought it would be good to convert the guidance documents we've created about traveling in Italy into an audio resource for our listeners. It's going to be an episode packed with useful information and everything you need to know to successfully move you to each beautiful destination throughout your Italian adventure. Let's get started. Andiamo. Experience Italy with Friends is a travel and lifestyle podcast where we will explore our favorite destinations and hidden gems, share key travel tips and cultural insights, and provide real-time updates about our move to this remarkable country. Join me, Tanya Razzo, an Italian travel expert and founder of Amici Vacations, and my Italian husband and producer, Davide Razzo, on a journey that is sure to inspire you and prepare you to create immersive and authentic experiences of your own in the beautiful country of Italy. Hello again, everyone. I'm your host, Tanya, and I'm here with my co-host, producer, and husband, Davide.
Ciao a tutti.
As we've discussed in previous episodes, Italy is a large country, and most travelers want to see multiple cities or regions. So effectively and economically getting from place to place is very important. Key questions I receive from clients include, does Italy have Uber? Can you get everywhere by train or public transportation? How do trains work? How easy is it to rent a car and drive in Italy? Should one ever consider flying between destinations?
Well, we're going to answer all of those questions and more, but first we have a quick update on our new life here in Italy. What have we been up to in the last 2 weeks, Tanya?
Well, we gave our last update a few days after moving to Montepulciano, so we've been here about 3 weeks now.
Yes, the first week was kind of really rainy, foggy, but thankfully now it's sunny and it's beautiful.
It is beautiful, and the countryside is so beautiful, rain or sunshine, but definitely enjoy the sun more.
Yeah.
And in this time, we've been exploring Montepulciano and really all over the Val d'Orcia. Now, this is the area across southern Tuscany, from Montalcino to the west to Montepulciano in the east, and a lot of towns below. So we've been exploring all of the towns, many wineries, agriturismos, which are, farm stays, resorts. And one thing we realized during this time is that while we've been to the Val d'Orcia frequently before, we typically stopped on our way from Rome to Tuscany, or we've made day trips to go do wine tasting. So most of our experiences were fairly short. And it's been really enjoyable to have more time to just slowly and carefully explore the towns, walk up each and down every street, climb more towers, and discover more fun hidden gems. And my favorite so far is a tucked away wine bar and terrace at the top of Montepulciano, and it's perfect for watching sunsets.
Well, and in the middle of all of this exploring, we needed to take a few days and travel to Calabria. All right, Tanya?
Yes, we returned the rental car in Florence, hopped a train, and then about 6 hours later, we were in the southern part of the country. Easy peasy.
Yeah. So in Calabria, we had to take care of more of government stuff, especially for you, right? Now you do have residency, and ta-da, you have healthcare.
Yay.
You get the tessera sanitaria,
I
right?
can get sick now.
Yeah, hopefully not, right? But better to have that than not to have that.
Exactly. And what else do we do?
Well, the most exciting part, or not, was to buy a car.
That we don't have yet.
No.
But yeah, slowly but surely, we're getting more established, and we've learned yet another Italian process. I added a post about it to the Facebook group, so make sure to check it out.
Yeah, if you don't know about our Facebook group, just join Experience Italy with Friends Facebook page. Just Google it on Facebook and you will find us. So
hope to see you there.
Yeah. Well, with all this traveling across Tuscany and Italy and buying a car, it reminded us how critical transportation is. And we were inspired to make the topic of this podcast today.
Yes, and similar to our FAQs, we've previously created guidance documents on these topics for our clients, but I think it will be a great audio resource for all of our listeners. And I do have to note that similar to the FAQ episode that I hope you all listened to, I have to warn you that it is a lot of information, and we're going to do our best to break it down into digestible pieces for you.
Okay, well, Tanya, tell us how we're going to do that. How are we going to approach this big topic?
There are many ways to break this topic down, but let's start with one, traveling within cities, and secondly, traveling between cities.
Okay.
So for traveling within a city, you won't want to rent a car. First, driving in an unknown city is complicated. And secondly, parking is difficult and expensive.
Parking is the worst, but we get to that later.
Yes. And I guess the easiest transportation mode, and the one you're going to do the most of, is walking. And you'll easily get over 10,000 steps in a day and burn off those delicious carbs.
But we can't walk to Calabria, right?
So
Anyway.
With that said, you will want to use taxis and Ubers or a car service when you need help with luggage to and from the airport or to and from the train station, or to get you across the city either very early in the morning or late at night if you don't want to be out walking at that time of day.
Yeah,
And, quite frankly, if your feet just give out.
sure.
So when you're wanting to take a taxi, you need to look for a taxi stand. You will find them outside an airport terminal, the train station, hotels, and larger piazzas. So just wait for one to arrive if one isn't there, or enter the first car in line. Hailing taxis is not common here, so you're not standing in the street waving one down.
Mm-hmm.
You need to find a taxi stand.
Yep.
And, since I mentioned it up front, I often get asked about Uber. We're all very used to Uber in our home countries, or at least in the US, I should speak
Right.
for. And just to let you know, Uber exists only in Rome and Milan, and it's only Uber Black, which is more expensive and the nicer vehicles.
And the bigger ones too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But there are other apps for taxis. So jot down Free Now, IT Taxi, and App Taxi are some of the ones I've used. And it's kind of hit or miss which cities one is more prevalent in. So you'll just need to have them and use them as needed, and you'll find out how convenient they are.
Which one did we use recently in, where was Sesto Fiorentino when we were going to the airport, right?
It was App Taxi.
App Taxi, okay.
Yeah, and it worked just as easy as Uber.
Okay. What else?
So if you're not using an app, one thing I want to, advise everyone on is make sure you ask upfront how much it's going to cost
Yes.
and if they accept credit cards.
Yes.
If that's what you prefer versus cash. And, ask before getting into the car, as we've learned that their answer sometimes changes once you are in the car, and they will say they only take cash, or conveniently their card reader is broken.
So just, we've been burned by that, and they drove us to an ATM. So just do it upfront. Say, hey, we don't have cash, don't have time to go to a bank to get cash. Do you accept credit cards? And
Yep.
then they know.
Yes. And they usually want your business, so then they are more inclined to say yes.
Exactly.
So outside of taxis and Ubers, you next may want to consider taking the metro or, subway system in the larger cities. Now, there are 7 cities in Italy that have a metro, but the key ones we've used are in Milan, Rome, and Naples.
Mhm.
And these operate like most larger city systems that you would have found in, New York City, Chicago, London, etc. You buy tickets at the metro station, and there are some apps like Easy Metro Rome, Move It, or ATM Milano. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think sometimes the metro station is just the easiest.
Mhm.
And they're very easy to navigate. I just wish we had more of these all over the place, in the US and Italy. But be aware of pickpockets because they are crowded, and it's easy to take possessions and
Yes.
hop off the train and get away.
Mm.
So want to point that out.
What about buses, Tanya?
Well, buses exist in all cities. while also certain cities like Rome, Milan, Florence, and Naples have a tram or electric rail. And these are really convenient, but we haven't used them a ton. One thing we found is that buying tickets has been a bit different everywhere. Like there's no one way. You can, buy the bus or tram tickets at a nearby tobacco or a street kiosk. Some of them have machines at the stops.
Right.
And others allow you to purchase directly on board. So it's kind of a hit or miss. So maybe, ask somebody at the hotel or a local or, the driver of the bus as a last resort if it's not posted at the stop. And to be honest, it's usually pretty simple to figure out. It costs anywhere from like 1.5 or 3 euros. We've used them in Sorrento. It was easy. I really like the tram in Florence to get into the city and to the airport. It's pretty convenient.
Well, I think it's about it, right? So that's traveling within a big city. Tell us about traveling between the big cities.
Yes. Now, traveling by train and car are the primary intercity modes of transportation, but I thought I'd note a couple of others just to be very thorough in my report. First, ferries. You'll find these on the large lakes like Como and Garda, and you'll use a ferry to get to the islands such as Capri, Ischia, Elba, Sardinia, and coastal towns like the Italian Riviera, Portofino, Cinque Terre, the Amalfi Coast. And I love these, to be honest. And so not only are they great transportation, but it's a great way to get on the water at a low cost. And you sit up high, offering really great views of the coast. So try to figure out how to take a ferry.
We did the Cinque Terre like that, and we saw the whole Cinque Terre by boat.
Yes, and like within under an hour. So, and I think it was like $15. So it's a pretty cost-effective way to get a great boat ride. And it's easy to buy. You can buy tickets at the port. And these are large ships, so they usually don't run out. But you can either wait to buy right before you go, because sometimes the weather is bad and the water is too choppy and they'll actually stop the ferries. But, buying online or on an app is easy too. So if the weather looks great, go ahead and do so. Ferry Hopper is a great app that I've used. Very convenient.
Cool.
So next, planes. Now, in most cases, plane travel takes more time and money than train travel once you factor in airport time. But it is an option to consider. And it usually only makes sense if traveling from way north to the way south, like Venice to Naples or Venice to Calabria. And typically when going to the islands of Sardinia or Sicily.
Right.
So otherwise, take the train, but there are planes to take, and the main airlines are...
like EasyJet, Ryanair is a big one, ITA Airways, and now more recently, Aero Italia. So it's a smaller one, and they go everywhere too, and it's pretty budget. So
Good to know.
Well, that leaves us now with 2 big topics to cover: train travel and renting a car.
Yes. I'll start with the trains. And then, Davide, you can cover renting a car and driving in Italy. After all, you've been my chauffeur all of these years.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, before you dive into this, a key question for you. Can you rely entirely on trains and other public transportation in Italy and avoid renting a car?
Yes, you can. But only if you are traveling between larger to mid-sized cities. Other thing I want to point out is if you're going to the Amalfi Coast, you can take buses or ferries, but you should budget for a car service, as I have found it to be the easiest and least stressful way to get around the crazy, complicated driving along the coast and its cities. Also, for remote places like Tuscany, where we are now, and similar regions with countryside, you really need a car to get to the smaller towns that don't have a train, or the countryside agriturismos. Again, these are the farm stays, or you're going to feel stranded. It's hard to enjoy the countryside if you're relying on taxis and car services. I will say the exception is if you're within walking distance of a town and are willing to pay for a car service on tour days. And assuming you're not going every single day. And with larger groups, maybe it's worth it. Like I recently had a group of 3 couples stay near San Gimignano, and they didn't want to drive. And we made taxis and car service work for them since they could share the cost. And as a rule of thumb, car service costs about €100 per hour. And you need to factor round trip in a lot of instances since the driver needs to get back to home base. So just as an example, a full day of wine tasting could run you €600 to €700.
Yeah.
So definitely more expensive than renting a car, but convenient if you want somebody to be driving for you while you're wine tasting. And if you have a group of people, it becomes
maybe
affordable.
Cheaper. Exactly. Well, let's dive into traveling by train, Tanya. What advice do you have for everyone?
Well, again, traveling by train is usually the best option for visiting large and medium-sized cities. I actually really enjoy traveling by train. It's so easy and relaxing and typically a lot faster than by car. And, I often get asked if taking a car service or renting a car and stopping along the way would be better. And while being able to stop somewhere along the way is tempting, it usually adds so much more time. So I just want to give an example. Like the train from Rome to Florence is about an hour and a half. Driving that same route is 3.5 hours. And if you stop somewhere, you're adding another hour or two. So as tempting as it is to want to take the slow route, it really is a slow route. And, for me, time is everything. So
anyway, but there are different kind of trains, right? So one needs to know on what train to hop on.
Yes.
So tell us the differences between the trains.
So there are essentially 3 types of trains: fast trains, intercity trains, and regional trains. And while there are options, you're likely going to always pick the fastest available option. So it doesn't matter too much to know the differences, but just to highlight that key is that they do offer different classes of service, and you can reserve a seat on some of them and some you can't. So fast trains are probably the ones you're most going to take through the large cities. They're faster, therefore they're, more expensive, but you get seat reservations, and that's usually included in the ticket price. Now, also to know, there are 2 trains or 2 companies that run the trains.
Yes.
Trenitalia is Italy's train, and Italo is a public train that's very comparable. So typically, I just pick the one that has the schedule that works for me, and maybe the better fare, but they're pretty close.
Actually, we never traveled on an Italo train, did we?
I have, but not with you.
Okay, so but they are comparable, right?
They are very similar. A little bit different look and feel, but I would never say I like one better than the other. I just pick which one is most available, and they both have different travel classes. Trenitalia's is executive, business, premium, and standard. And, I have found the standard service to be clean and comfortable. And I've usually only justify a higher class for journeys over 2 hours, or you want quiet and need to get work done. But overall, it's still, all of them are fairly economical.
So standard class is fine, but we recently traveled on business class to Calabria, and it wasn't that much more. So, and there's just a little bit more extra comfort. The seats recline, and we got some food and some drinks for free. And it was just like, I don't know, $40 more for both of us.
I think so. And for me, it was a 6-hour journey. So it was definitely worth to have a little bit added extra comfort. And, but just to kind of explain to everybody, on average, basic tickets that I'm purchasing for clients typically average €65 per person or less. And it's typically less, like €40 to €25. So going up to a couple of classes isn't really adding a huge cost. Next, just to highlight, intercity trains are the next type of train you can take. They're also relatively fast. They run the length of Italy, and they have first and second class service available. The first class coaches are slightly better seats and a little bit less crowded. So that's the only advantage to note for that.
And one thing about the intercity trains is that they're actually coming from a different country. So they're either coming from Germany or from Switzerland or from France, depending. So that's what the intercity is. So
okay, maybe I didn't know that.
You did not know that.
I just thought they were coming from another city, which they all do.
So, but they are also comfortable. They also have like compartments, 6 or 4 people in a suite, how they call it. So
good
anyway.
to know. And lastly, there are regional trains. And these are local trains. And typically I've taken them from like Florence to Cinque Terre or Pisa. And they typically only have second class seat, so you don't have to worry about seat assignments.
Yeah. Okay. So I heard from some of your clients and asked, can I buy just a ticket on the train? So I don't think so. I would not recommend that. You can, but I would not recommend that. So where do you buy train tickets?
Well, there's a number of ways to buy a train ticket before you go to Italy or when you are in Italy. And I believe the easiest is to buy tickets online, either on their website or an app. Now, both Trenitalia and Italo have their own sites and own apps, but I like using Amio because you can check all available schedules and compare prices in one spot. And I find it easier to understand. It's just a bit more user-friendly. And there are other apps out there too, if you want to search for them. Now, the train tickets cost the same as Trenitalia and Italo, but they do add a small service fee, like $1 to $3. But it's worth the small extra cost, I believe. And you can download their app or book on their website. So once you have this app, you can show the digital ticket on your smartphone to the conductor. You can download it as a PDF if you want to save it on your phone that way, or you can go old school and print it. And I guess the only thing I want to note about using an app is sometimes you can't book last minute train tickets because they just won't show up in the search results. So make sure to book a few hours before departure.
Okay.
Next, you can also buy tickets at the ticket window at the station, but you need to know when you want to go and where you're going and the number of tickets and which class you want to take. And just note that the lines can sometimes get long during, busy times of the day. So get there early. And, most of the ticket sellers will speak English, but not always. So just know that it could be a little bit more complicated than being able to read it on the app yourself, but they take credit cards, so that's also helpful. One thing to know is that the ticket windows often open later in the morning, so it can pose a problem if you want to catch an early train, and so you'll need to book that the day in advance. Lastly, you can use a ticket machine at the station if they have them. This is usually a big red machine, and they're in English, and they're pretty intuitive and easy to use. But sometimes they don't accept foreign credit cards. So that's a caution. So you may need to pay in cash. And also, be aware of your belongings while you're focused on these machines, as it's a great distraction that pickpockets like to use while you're busy doing something and not minding your bags. They might be minding them for you.
As usual, always be on alert.
Always.
So now we know where to purchase tickets. And what do you have for purchasing advice?
Well, first, make sure you know the train station name. And some cities have multiple train stations, so be aware of that. I just learned recently that Pisa is a smaller city, but it has two. One's closer to the Leaning Tower than the other, but I learned it doesn't have luggage storage. So note that too if you need to make use of that. So know which train station you're going to is key. Also know the Italian and English version of the city, like Florence versus Firenze. And one thing to note is that for all types of trains, the ticket prices are cheapest when booked early, and they get progressively more expensive as the departure date approaches. So the difference is highest for fast trains versus the intercity trains, and there's not a big difference on regional trains because they're really based on distance. So really for the fast trains is, I would say, buy early if you're confident of your, time travels and your plans, and, aim to purchase 2 months in advance. And, I've recently read that tickets purchased the day of can be 3 times as more expensive than those purchased weeks in advance, but I haven't really seen that. So I can't say exactly the difference. I just know that it's cheaper the earlier you do so. So try to do so, and it's one less thing to worry about. The other thing you need to know in buying tickets is that there are different ticket options, meaning first, there's non-refundable and non-exchangeable. These are the cheapest, but I always get leery about non-exchangeable because it's quite common to miss a train if you're getting behind.
Or to get early to the train station and say, hey, I want to go on the earlier train.
Yep, that's nice. Glass half full. I like that thinking. Then there are non-refundable but exchangeable ticket prices. And next is fully refundable and exchangeable. And of course, those are the most expensive. So just do the math, evaluate the odds of needing to rebook with the ticket price. Like I've often found that if you get the non-refundable, non-exchangeable, they're pretty cheap, so that having to rebuy it was almost the same price as the difference in the refundable and the exchangeable. So I'm like, I'll take my chances. If I have to rebook, it's the same price.
Okay. Well, so we have tickets now. What about the actual traveling on a train? What do you want to say about that?
Well, first, to find the train station. And in most cities, the train station is usually either right in the center of the city or right on the perimeter. So usually not too far away. Sometimes you might want to take a cab to get to it if you have a lot of luggage. But once you are there, I find train stations to really function similar to airports. But instead of needing to find which gate to go to, you need to determine which track to go to.
Yes.
And the other good thing about the apps is that it will tell you often where to go. But easiest is really just to look for the departure board. It's similar in a train or in an airport, a big board in the center of the station, and there's actually many of them all around. And they will list the trains both by train number and train time. So you just need to wait for them to pop up which track the train is actually going to, and then you need to find the track. And the key thing is that in some smaller train stations, to get to say track number 3, you actually need to go down and under tracks number 1 and 2, and then go up the stairs again. So this is why when we talked about packing, having smaller luggage, or at least one that you can throw on your back and others to carry, you might be hauling it and schlepping it up and down and stairs in the train stations. Now, once you found the track and you're boarding the train, again, you'll show that to the train conductor as he goes by. And the easiest is to have that on your app, or you can have a printed copy with the QR code. One topic I want to touch lightly on is ticket validation, because I get this question a lot because people are, reading the internet or social pages and have heard that people get fined if they don't have their ticket validated. Now, the key thing to know about ticket validation is that it's only needed when you have a ticket that doesn't indicate an exact time and train and date. So think about buying a paper ticket and it's just, you can use it anytime, anywhere. And they're wanting to prevent people from using that same ticket over and over and over again. So these little machines called validations stamp it, put a date and time to say it's only valid that day and only for a certain amount of hours, and then it's no longer usable. But if you have an app or a true ticket from the ticket window, it will have a very specified time. So there's no point in needing to validate it. So know that you can and should, if you have, again, a non-time or stamp, because the tickets, I think the fee is 25 to 50 euros if you get caught with an unvalidated ticket. So now you're at the track, and now you need to figure out where to board the train and how to find your seat, should it be reserved. And on fast trains, it typically is. So your ticket will tell you which wagon or car you need to go on. And you would assume always that number 1 is going to be the one closest to you and 5 furthest away, but that's not always the case. Sometimes the trains come in backwards.
Yes.
So you need to look for the signage along the track. It will tell you really which car to expect.
Yeah, there's
and then you can find it to line up
TV monitors overhead.
Yeah. And so once on the car, you just need to look for your seat number, similar to ordering a plane. And, if you happen to get on the wrong car, you can walk between the cars on the train. It's just a little bit more difficult hauling your luggage. And speaking of luggage, often people are worried about where to put it. And it's different for each style of train. I just have to put it out there. Sometimes there are racks above the seats for your luggage. And we've learned that having skinnier luggage is easier for train travel because we've got these trunks that are small but thick and they don't fit. There are shelves at the end of each coach wagon, but I get a little bit leery of having my luggage unmonitored.
Yeah.
But also know that some trains, if they have back-to-back seats, which they do sometimes, they're groups of 4, between the seats, there's space to put your luggage.
Exactly.
And if all else fails, you can put it in the empty seat next to you or in the aisle, but it gets a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
Just know that there's nobody there to help you. So you need to be able to lift your luggage up and down from the train car on your own.
All right.
Okay. Lastly, to cover on the topics of trains is watching out for your destination. And I kind of bring this up because, like with most lessons, I've learned the hard way. If you're not paying attention, you can miss your stop. And now it's easy if the train's final destination is where you want to get off at. So if you fall asleep, someone will eventually wake you up and tell you to get off the train. But if you're getting off somewhere in the middle, pay attention and monitor where the train is at and the stop before you're getting off. Gather your luggage, wait by the door, and be prepared to get off quickly because you only have a couple of minutes to do so.
They usually announce on the Frecciarossa, they usually announce the stops. They also show them on the monitors that they have indoors in these cars. And so just pay attention to that.
Yeah. Not everybody can sleep and take a nap at the same time. So have somebody on point. And once you're at your final destination, again, be aware of your surroundings. They're very busy and full of pickpocketers. So just keep an eye on your things. And if you're looking for a taxi, head out of the station to find the taxi stand or a bus stop. Okay. So that is basically everything I know about train travel. So let's switch gears now and talk about driving in Italy. And Davide, I'm going to pass the baton to you.
All right. So first of all, driving in Italy, it can be really intimidating. The roads are narrow than what you used back home. Every time I come here in Italy, when it takes me about 1 or 2 days to get used to the roads, to the narrow roads again. So just be aware of that. Road signs are in foreign language for you guys. The driving laws might be different than back home. And then, as I mentioned before, parking might be a challenge as spots are small. And sometimes you have to do side parking, so.
Yeah, but having said all that, you're going to make this less intimidating and less stressful for everyone, right?
All right, so
let's start with renting a car.
Yeah,
so talk about the process a little bit.
You need a car, so you need to rent a car. So booking, I would advise you to book in advance from back home. So if you have like a corporate discount that you can use, more power to you. Then what I would advise is to book with known agencies like National, Hertz, Avis, Sixt, Europcar, or Locauto, or Sicily by car. That's also a good one. I would avoid smaller ones that are not known to you because, they might be cheap, but you get what you pay for. If your car breaks down, they have no service. And then sometimes, and that's what I heard from other people, is that they hide some fees when you finalize the booking. So
now we've used, I would say, National, Sixt, Europcar, Locauto, and I've had good experience really with all of them.
Very easy, especially Locauto. I was impressed. We use them now a couple times since we are here. So
I guess one thing to know, as you're planning your car rental, I'll just chime in here, is you can pick them up at the airport or the train station in most cities. And you can also pick up in one city and return them in a different city. So similar to flying, you have, multi-destinations. To think about, it doesn't have to be pick up and return to the same place.
Yes, absolutely. Just keep in mind that they might be a little bit more expensive, especially when you pick up a car in Florence and drop it off in Calabria. That's an additional fee that they put on. Or what I found too is picking up a car at the airport is cheaper than near a train station. So, but let's talk about the car size. When you selecting a car, just don't select it just for the people that you are.
Remember that luggage that you packed.
Yes, exactly. Also, that luggage needs to go somewhere. So be aware of that. Then also, if you make sure that you choose the transmission that you want, I prefer automatic. I've been driving automatic for years now, but I can drive a stick and I can drive it. But maybe for you, if you're not used to, especially in Italy, don't rent a stick. So make sure you rent an automatic.
And that's usually done when you're reserving the car.
Yes, you have to tell them I want an automatic transmission. So then Another thing to think about when you're reserving a car is insurance. Tanya, what can you tell us about insurance?
Well, like with most companies, when insurance comes into the picture, they want to scare you and get you to buy the most coverage, and it's the most expensive. Now, Italy does require collision damage waivers and theft insurance, but check with your credit cards because many of them will offer this insurance coverage. And while some do, some also say they have it for everywhere except Italy.
Yes, for some reason.
Just double check that you have coverage and that it includes Italy. If you purchase travel insurance, which we've talked about in a previous episode that I recommend, they often offer this additional coverage of collision and theft, so you won't need to purchase it from the rental car company.
All right. So we arrived. Let's go pick up the car.
So what do you need to have with you?
Okay. So your passport or an ID, right? So your driver's license, your valid driver's license, you must be over 25. And if you are not an EU resident, then you need to have an international driver's license.
Where can you get one?
In the US, you can get them at the AAA. They cost about $20 and they're valid only for 1 year. So you have to renew it every time you go to Italy. You have to redo it. So
yeah. Now I want to just chime in here on this topic for a second because there's been a lot of debate on social media and some of the Facebook groups that I follow of do you or do you not need an international driver's license? And I'm just going to set the record straight here for everybody is yes, you do need to have one. It is a legal requirement. If you get stopped by the police and do not have one, you will be fined. Now, what makes it confusing is that some rental car companies don't check and some do. So you think, oh, they didn't check me the last time I rented a car, so I don't need one. Well, it only matters when you get stopped by the police and then it's expensive. And also you may pick the rental car company the next time that does require it and then you can't rent your car.
Exactly. I mean, I got cars with my American driver's license and then driving with my Swiss driver's license, so no problem. But if you don't have that, it can cost like 300 euros, I heard. And there's Europe car won't give you a car anymore without a international driver's license.
Yeah. So just make sure you have it on your checklist of trip preparation to go to AAA and get your international driver's license.
All right, let's get going here.
So you're there, you got your car, you found it on the lot. Now what?
So now do a complete and full walk around inspection. You might be doing this with the representative of the car rental company. If there's nobody around, do not skip this part. I'm going to advise you. Take pictures with your phone. Take pictures everywhere of the whole car, even on top of the roof. Always take pictures. Also from the wheels, because sometimes those wheels are already scratched. They will make you pay for it. So do not rush this process and take pictures, and then you can go. Do not skip this part. Okay, so you drove around Italy and you're done. You're returning the car. Always return it with a full tank. Otherwise, they will charge you for gas and they will probably upcharge you with that.
This is similar to the US, right? I mean, probably in most countries, it's another way to make extra money if you rely on them to pay for your gas.
Yeah. So then again, when you bring it back, go look for a representative that you can actually give them the keys. They will check the car for you. If there's, again, no one around, take pictures again of that day so you have it documented. So,
okay, so we've talked about picking up and returning the car. So let's talk about driving in Italy. And again, I think a lot of people are intimidated about this. They've heard about the crazy Italian drivers, though I've seen crazy drivers everywhere, to be honest. But they're a special breed here.
They're a special breed. But
talk to us about the rules here that one should know.
I mean, so general rules. Italians also drive on the right side of the road. There one big difference when you're on a stoplight. There's no turn on a red light.
Okay.
So you need to be stopped.
Good to know.
Your headlights need to be on all the times outside of urban places, especially on the autostrada. You always stay on the right lane. use only the left lane to pass. So
Now, this is the same in the US, but I would say people are not good about following that rule.
no, they don't.
Here,
So,
it's more important.
exactly. So they're a little bit more, they get mad at you. So anyway, then cell phone usage. Absolutely no cell phone usage while driving. You get a hefty ticket. So have your co-driver navigate you. So seat belts need to be worn front and back, if in the back they are available, right? So now intersections. When you get to an intersection, it's not as well regulated as in the US, where you have a 4-way stop intersection. So there's some a little bit of complicated rules and right of ways here in Italy. And so my advice is,
Proceed with caution.
yes, make eye contact with the driver of the other car. But rule of thumb is that the car on the right has the right of way. So, but just always look at each other. Anyway, as if you do with anywhere you drive that is not in your state or in your country, you want to adapt the driving style of the locals. So do that and you won't have a problem. Then, Italians, they swear on zipper merger. Do not get mad if they pass you on the other lane when you already lined up on the slower lane. This is the way in Italy. They do it the right way, not like at home.
Okay.
So, also, when you drive, always be aware of your surroundings. Behind you, on the side of you, both sides of you. I mean, there's scooters that they're passing you either from the left or the right. Also, when you are driving with a scenery in the background, don't drive slow. Drive the tempo that the other cars are going, because behind you might be an Italian that needs to go to work and he's just going to be mad and he's trying to pass. And I just imagine like driving the Amalfi Coast and you just go like, oh, ooh. And there's one behind you that wants to go to work. So,
well, and I'm usually the one asking Davide to please stop so I can go take a picture. And he gets very frustrated with me. And I have to give him fair warning of look for a place to pull over.
Yeah. So do not brake abruptly to go and take a picture. They will hate you because they're right behind you. They sit right behind you. Anyway.
Okay. So what else do we need to know about driving? Now, you're going to talk about speed limit, and every country has speed limits. It's the same. But I think the interesting thing to know about Italy is sometimes you end up getting home and a few months later, there are these tickets that arrive to greet you.
The electronic speed traps, right?
So talk to us about that.
So first of all, don't go over the speed limits. The speed limits are signed on every road. The sign.
I almost laughed listening to you say that because you were so guilty.
I mean, the days of driving to the autostrada with 200 kilometers per hour, they're gone. So 130 on autostrada and 90 or 70 on secondary streets. So just keep that. Just make sure you always look how fast you can go.
Because if you're not,
so
there are a couple of machines along the way that are watching you.
So there's two systems they use in Italy, especially on the autostrada. The one is called the two-door system. So what it do is it's triggered by when you are going over the speed limit, but then it takes a picture there, and then maybe 2 kilometers further up the road, there's another one. Then they will take another picture of you, and then they will calculate how fast you were going. So if you're not aware of that, then yeah. So the other one is called the Autovelox, which you will find both on Autostrade and on local or secondary streets in whole Italy. So, and that one will use pass, they will take a picture, and then you will get the ticket. So
yeah, and this maybe helps transition to the next point. They're taking pictures of you going into the restricted driving zone. So talk to us about those.
So, okay, Italy, in many cities, they have what they're called the ZTL. It's the Zona Traffico Limitato. So that requires for you to enter that, it requires a permit. So if you're not a resident, you have no reason to go in there by car.
What's confusing about this, though, that I want to chime in at is you will see other cars driving in. And you're like, hey, but it says ZTL and I see cars going in, so I should be able to go in too. However, they have permits. So either they are residents of the ZTL zone and they have permission, or they are taxi drivers that also have permission. So it's easy to get confused and say, well, if they're doing it, I should be able to do it. So pay attention. I just want to tell a story of we were with a car service once talking about the value of a car service versus driving on your own. And he was saying a common mistake is that people don't know about the ZTL and that there's a camera there. And he's heard stories of people staying at a hotel or an Airbnb inside the ZTL. And they drove in and out the entire week without getting permission and had $1,000 fine sent to them. So be aware of ZTL. And if you are picking up your car near a ZTL zone, ask how to get out of the city without going into the ZTL.
Okay. Or when you're planning your trip, plan to maybe book a hotel outside of the ZTL or
talk to the hotel up front, because often they will give you a pass or will clear your license plate number.
Cool.
Okay, so we talked about ZTLs, and what else do we need to know about navigating Italian roads and knowing, how to read signs?
Well, it's 2024. Last time I checked, most people use Google Maps, Apple Maps, Waze. But if you want to do it the old-fashioned way, use the signs with the city names, and so you get there. So anyway.
Okay, what about road signs?
So road signs, they are also kind of easy to understand. You will see green signs. For example, you see a city name with a green sign, and then you see the same city name with a blue sign. So the green sign is Autostrada. So if you want to go to Florence by Autostrada, you follow the green sign. If you want to go to Florence or Firenze by secondary street and you don't want to pay the toll, then take the blue sign. So follow the blue sign. Then they also have a white signs, which is local streets, local ways to get to the destination. And then they also have some brown signs, and those are for non-paved roads. So I would avoid that if you don't have to go there. So, but most traffic signs are like in the US, except there are some that are more tailored to Europe. So I would do a research on Google, and we found a couple.
Yeah, they have
pictures,
actually a
right?
one-page just kind of summary of all the key road signs in Europe. So it pays to take a look at them ahead of time.
Okay.
So I think the next thing that people get confused about, or I'm glad that I don't have to worry about when you are driving, is these tolls and which toll, aisle to go through to get a ticket, as well as which one you drive through to pay your ticket. And it seems like all of a sudden this mad craziness when people are getting on and off the highway as to figure out which path to go. So
okay,
what's some key tips?
So you need to pay toll when you're using Autostrada. So when you entering the Autostrada, you come up to a Altstazione. It's like gates, as you probably have
toll
seen.
booth.
Yeah, toll booth. So there are several there. There's some that say Telepass, which is a yellow one. Do not use that one. Do not use that's just for residents that have a subscription, and they will get their toll just sent at home. Use the white signs, and maybe if they have a blue sign, you can use that too. But use the white signs. Just go that to enter it. Then now we entered. So when you get to the toll booth, you pick up the ticket. It's a ticket. You may have to push the red button there, and then they will spit out a ticket. You take that, you put that in your car, and then the gate opens and you can drive off.
Just don't lose it.
Do not lose that. So, anyway.
So now I'm on the Autostrada.
Yeah.
We're driving.
Yeah.
Anything I need to know about different than U.S. highway system?
Sure. So most Autostrada, they have 3 lanes. The far right is for very slow traffic, just like trucks or slow drivers. You will see some Italians with little cars driving on that lane. Then the middle lane is to drive, just to normal drive, keep up with your pace and speed. And then there's the left lane, which you should only use to pass the slower cars. Please do not hang out on the left lane because that's really just to pass. There's always somebody faster than you and faster approaching to you. They will flash you lights and honk at you, and you need to move away. You need to get out of the way. So
there are some people who still want to drive 200 kilometers per hour.
There still are some people. So anyway, like I said, keep the speed limit, maximum 130, or what it's indicated. Sometimes it's 110. Again, the Autostrada, they have that tutor system to keep track of that speed. So be aware of that. Italy, when you need gas and you're hungry, you need to use restrooms. They have a wonderful thing that it's called the Autogrill. So it's a full service station with restaurants, gas station, bar, restrooms, and it's wonderful. They have wonderful food there. It's beautiful. It's
wonderful to a certain degree. It is good quality fast food.
It is good. Better than what we have in the US at a gas station. Come on.
But don't oversell it. It's still fast food.
Anyway, so you will find that Autogrill every 20, 30 kilometers. There's always one. So that you need to keep track of gas. So if you say, I'm going to skip that one, be aware. The next one is maybe in 20 or maybe in 30 kilometers. So be aware of that.
Yeah. Also thing you need to know about stopping at these Autogrills, not to be the person that's always talking about theft potential, but this is another instance where your belongings could be at risk. So if you have your luggage with you, do not leave it in the car or anything in the car, or at least don't leave it unattended. So we take turns. When we stop, one goes in for food. We take turns using the restrooms. Do not leave your car unattended.
So let's say you get to your destination and you're exiting the Autostrada again. Again, you will encounter the Altstazione, the toll booth, right? Do not go to the yellow sign.
So again, always avoid yellow signs going on and off.
Yes, the yellow sign also says, I forgot to say it, mentioned before, it's called the telepass. So now, there are several booths you can use. There's white signs that says cash only. You will see just coins. There are booth white signs that say coins and carte means credit cards. So you can go in there, pay cash or with credit card. Then there's a blue sign that says telepass or via card. You can use that too. You can pay with your credit card there. Do not use the yellow one though.
Okay, got it. No yellow. So you talked a little bit about needing to stop for gas. Is there anything we need to know about getting gas in Italy? I mean, is this any different than most other countries?
Yeah. When was the last time somebody served the gas for you? Like
Oregon. Oregon has a law that they still have servers.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So Italy does too. So you can pick either Servito, where they take gas for you, or the self, which is self-explanatory. So Servito's more expensive, but they clean your windows, they fill it up, and what's important, they're taking the foreign credit cards. On the self, they do not. We found out that no foreign credit cards are accepted at those self.
We do not know why. It doesn't seem to make sense.
I don't know.
But it's important to know.
So now make sure that you're taking the right fuel. So if you have a diesel, take a diesel. If you have a benzina car, take a benzina. The rental cars usually have diesel and benzina. Then the one thing that you need to understand is that the diesel, they are also putting a product called the AdBlue. Maybe your car will tell you, hey, you need to add AdBlue. Just tell the guy to put some more AdBlue into it. It's not that expensive. So anyway.
Okay, so we've been driving the car. We've gotten on and off the freeway. And often, though, no matter where you're at, you need to park the car. And we talked about cities are terrible with this, but hopefully you're parking it in a smaller city or in the countryside or tourist areas. So what does one need to know about parking your car?
Planning is everything. I usually look on Google Maps where public parking is.
So Google parqueggio.
Parqueggio, yeah. And then Google will guide me there. So the other thing, if there is no parqueggio or parking lots for some reason, there is parking on the street or some dedicated parking spots. Usually they have either blue lines, which are it's limited time parking, and it's you pay a fee for it. They have like central parking, cash machines that you pay the parking meter. You can pay with credit card or cash. Then you will see parking with white lines. Those are free. And then you see some parking spots that have yellow lines. You are not allowed to park on those. Those are just for residents. So,
okay. So look for blue or white. If it's blue, you have to pay. The other thing is usually it's a big blue sign with the P on it that indicates that it's a parking spot.
So when you park your car, a couple do's and do nots or don'ts. So do's, pay right away. Do not leave the car unpaid. So if you have the blue parking spot, just go pay, and then you might need to bring back that ticket and put it under your windshield. So fold your side mirrors because the spots are narrow and you want to protect your car a little bit. So then mark your parking spot on Google Maps so you find a way back. The don'ts, please never, ever leave anything in the car of value. Seriously, do not leave anything. So
Davide, we talked about parking the car, but let's talk about what happens if you run into car trouble or unfortunately have a car accident. Mm-hmm. Whether your fault or somebody else's, they happen sometimes.
Sure.
So what should we do?
So the key is to call your rental company right away when you have a breakdown, okay? So let's talk about breakdowns. Call them. They will tow you or they will service you, and they might bring you another car. So you're good with that. Now, let's talk about car accidents. So when you have a car accident, you need to have the same procedure. Call your rental car company, but also always call the Italian police at 112. Do not skip this. Even if the other party that you had the accident with tells you, no, we don't need police or anything, always call the police. Always take pictures of what is going on. When you call the police, ask for somebody that speaks English, because that will help you to understand the situation and they will get a better understanding of the situation. So
Davide, that was a very comprehensive overview of driving in Italy. Thank you for that. But it does sound a little intimidating. So how would you want to wrap this up?
It's easy. Come on, guys. It's very manageable. It's easy to drive. We had friends driving with us. Our clients have driven without any accidents or anything. Just use some common sense and you'll be just fine. It's just like driving at home. So, and I hope that what we just told you, that you will take that in consideration and you will be just fine. So,
okay, good to know.
Well, hey, that was a lot again. Let's conclude this episode, but we don't want to leave you without the tips from Tanya. Tips from Tanya.
So I have a few tips for this episode for you. The first is to think creatively and strategically about your transportation needs in the country. As we've talked about, Italy is a big country. So think about where you fly in and fly out, along with how to get around the country itself. Time and money is a factor, but to me, time is often more important. And most importantly, I try to avoid any backtracking whenever possible. So direct lines. Start to finish. Secondly, if you want to avoid renting a car, stay in bigger cities and be open to paying for a car service or an organized tour to take day trips to remote areas. However, if you want to experience Tuscany or other remote areas for many days, don't be afraid to rent a car. As Davide said, it is manageable. And when you're in a remote area, more in the countryside, it is less stressful than any of the big cities. So you've got this. Third, planning ahead is important. So car rentals in busy cities book out. especially automatic transmission. So make sure to reserve it as far in advance as possible. And both the rental car and the train tickets are cheaper if you book them in advance. So planning ahead pays off in these instances to make sure availability and price. Fourth, consider arranging a car service to pick you up at the airport when you arrive in Italy. It's really a nice perk to have someone greeting you after a long flight that can help you with your luggage. It usually is a roomier, nicer car, and they will get you from the airport to your hotel in the quickest amount of time where you can then relax after your long trip. My final tip is to be aware of which apps you need in advance and to make sure they are downloaded on your phone. You will need these for the trains, for taxis, for metros, and have all of your tickets saved as PDFs or printed so you don't have to rely on your app should something go wrong.
Well, those were great tips again, Tanya.
Yeah, so now we are at the end of episode number 8. And again, thank you all for listening. We love having you on this journey with us. And I hope this information helps you get around the beautiful country of Italy more efficiently and with the least amount of stress, so we'll be back with another episode in 2 weeks. Ciao.
Ciao.
We hope you've enjoyed Experience Italy with Friends. If you like the podcast, remember to follow us and leave a review letting us know what you found to be the most helpful. And if you want expert advice or assistance in creating your own immersive and authentic experience in Italy, visit us at www.amicivacations.com.